Hello everyone, I'm Rima Kusuma Rini from Graduated Program of Accounting Universitas Indonesia. Thank you for the opportunity to present my research paper with title Do Socioeconomic Factors Drive Peer-to-Peer Lending Analysis in Indonesia? Financial technology is an application of digital technology to solve financial intermediary. It also has significant growth, and it also reportedly in Global Financial Index, and from the unbanked people are located in developing economies such as Bangladesh, China, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Nigeria, and Pakistan. Especially in Indonesia, which has since 2015 as the emerging economies has significant growth in fintech lending. The fact that the popular one is the peer-to-peer lending, so it can facilitate the small middle enterprise in a nation as the archipelago country can funding their business. According to the data, as of the December 2020, the Investment All Task Force have blocked more than 1,000 illegal fintech P2P platform. It indicates that there are so many illegal platforms still exist since the lack of the understanding particular of the people about this platform. According to that indication, it resulted the issue. The first, it might be the borrowers come from the various backgrounds, so that's why they have the lack of the knowledge or the understanding regarding the platform. Second, because of the government support this platform in order to support the business and economic and market mechanism, so many people are using this platform. The third, because of the many people using this platform, they can use the multiple platform without any consideration whether they could pay it or not. So that's why, according to the Suryono, majority of the borrowers of P2P lending are unbanked and unbankable people. So that's why, according to the indication and issue, we try to demonstrate it, the study to aims to examine the social and economics determinant of P2P lending, and we hope that we can give the contribution as the material for the regulators and the parties involved. From the majority of studies, we can conclude that they still focused on discussion from the legal perspective, determine factors by identified behavioral intention that using questionnaires and representative sample or using the qualitative approach. So what is the difference? The review studies with the current studies. The study using the empirical method by using the social and economic data from Susanas to demonstrate the relationship between social and economic factors to the number of loans in P2P lending. Since Susana's data origin from BPS, it could lead the comprehensive multiple determinant analysis that affected to the number of loan disbursement in fintech lending. So that's why, according to that, the research question is how the social and economic determinants affected P2P lending according to the accumulated loan of borrower. P2P lending contains of information asymmetry between the parties involved as the fundamental problem. Of course, as a lender, they won't get much as valid information as possible about the borrower. But in another side, borrower is potentially interested to hiding some of the characteristic. And many platforms requires user to provide some information regarding the social demographics such as the gender, race, or age. So that's why in order to make the foundation of the perspective in the study, we demonstrated two theories. The first is planned behavior theory in order to help explain the characteristic of the borrower such as the education, gender, profession, and other social condition. And the second is theory of acceptance model. In this theory, as the foundation of the perspective that could allow the borrower to have perception in order to use P2P lending. The previous study, we adopted the main two research. The first from Bachman, diversified the determinant in P2P lending by financial, demographic, social capital, and soft factors. The second is Darmansha. He also demonstrated the behavior intention and also diversified the characteristics of the borrower, such as gender, education, background, profession, job position, income, and expenditure. So that's why by combine of those studies, we try to adopt by demonstrated social and economic factors by diversified into four. The first is job characteristic, second gender according to Human Development Index and expenditure per capita, and then the third number of non-bank institutions, and the last is education. The first is job characteristic. Job characteristic, we use two proxies. The first in micro and small labor, and the second is formal labor. Both of them reflected the difference of two levels. The first, micro and small labor, is reflected the lower middle of the level society, and it could possibly that micro and small labor has positive relationship to the accumulated borrower in fintech lending, since this platform can ease them and allow them have access and have some funding without any difficulties and requirement. But in formal labor, it also possibly access the peer-to-peer lending, since they can finance or since they can access to finance their activities in business. So that's why both micro and small labor and formal labor has the positive relationship to accumulated loan of borrowers. The second is gender. About 56 unbanked people are women, according to the Global Financial Index data. But in another side, according to the Pope and the Sidner, women has less interest and motivate rather than men about the lending and borrower money. So that's why to make sure this statement, we try to make the positive relationship both women and men to the accumulated loan of borrowers. And the third is the number of non-bank institutions. Since Indonesia is built as the people's economy, so that's why we believe that the total number of the corporations still exists can decreasing the accumulated loan of borrowers. So that's why the hypothesis is the lower of the total cooperative has positive relationship to the accumulated loan of borrowers. Supported by plain behavior theory, the hypothesis is high education people has positive relationship to the accumulated loan of borrowers. In this study, the research analysis adopted to Stern et al. And the second, by considering the model of Darmansha and Bachman in order to identify the determinant P2P lending, we try to demonstrate the social and economic aspects such as the demographic, gender, education, background, profession into four the characteristic that are job characteristic, gender, number of non-bank institution, and the last is education. And the sample is all of profit in Indonesia. That is all of the fintech lending that are standing in Indonesia. This is the equation and this is the description. We do some step before doing main test. Result is we found that only two hypotheses supported this. That is the hypothesis 1b and hypothesis 4, and the robustness test also manifested that these two hypotheses is supported. And conclude according to the result that it indicates that the first job characteristic, it might be the formal labor have more access and sufficient knowledge toward fintech's lending that enable their behavioral intention to use the platform. And formal labor also has the guarantee explicitly that allow them to borrow money in fintech lending. For example, they have business to be funded. So that's why, as we know that many people in the P2P platform usually and more interested to finance the activity regarding the invoice financing, for example. And the second is gender. Even though all of the hypotheses regarding the gender are not supported, but in these cases we can take into account the hypothesis regarding the woman, especially hypothesis 2A and hypothesis 2C. Show that positive even though not significant relationship, but we could indicate it that the most of the lender are the women. The third is the number of non-bank institution. The hypothesis is not supported. It means that the role of the cooperative still existed, especially in particular province since not all population familiar to use platform fintech lending. And then the fourth is education. This is supported. Actually, this hypothesis has the same information with the hypothesis 1b, and it also supported the planned behavior theory since the education people allow them to have perception that could drive their intention include financial propensity. And then the last is control variable. We use GDRP or gross domestic regional product, and it reflected the consumption and production in the province, so that's why it could impact it to the accumulated loan. Because GDRP is reflected the funding of the various product in economic sector or households. So that's why fintech lending is an alternative of funding in each province. You can take into the conclusion only hypothesis 1b and hypothesis 4 supported the hypothesis. It means that both formal and higher education indicates the similar value of information since it reflected the middle high level of the population. And the result also consistent with the previous study, Najaf et al., that found most of the borrower of P2P affected by the background such as a higher level of annual income. Also manifested that high educated borrower possibly dominated the loan to funding their enterprise. According to the result, it could give the implication the first to the literature. It contributes to enrich and further expand the study that identified of the determinant fintech lending, especially by using the secondary data that available from the BPS. And practically, the study it could be useful for the regulators and stakeholders since it provides additional information and analysis, especially for formal labor and high education people that affected to the number of transactions. And according to the result, it resulted in phenomena that could lead to further development of platform to reach the non-high education people and micro and small labor. The study contained of several limitations. The first, the gender factors need explored comprehensively since it only two proxies. So that's why the future study could explore another variable to describe gender, such as the proportion of men and women labor in each province. Second, the non-bank institution only use the numbers of the corporations in each province. So that's why in the further studies, they could examine another non-bank institution such as the micro organization or venture capitalists. And the third, since the study only employ empirical method, and the further study could demonstrate the additional analysis by using interview to stakeholders. So I think that's all my presentation. Thank you for your attention.